This lesson is called Rejection Revolution. This is how to become the selector and never be rejected again. From skip the date, get the girl. You want to be a bonder. We've talked about it in our identity lessons, and this is so important. Women want men that other women want. This is the other element of pre-selection, and I want to dig into it again. If a woman sees you with other attractive women, you become more attractive. If you date 5 models in a row, every other model you meet will expect you to date them. They see that familiarity, that comfortableness. So we want you to act like a man who has tons of women dripping off his arms, and then other women you meet, they'll feel exactly the same way. So even if it's the first girl you meet from one of these sites using this technique, what's going to happen is she's going to immediately want to lock you down. She's going to want to get that pre-selection in because she knows that you're high ticket, and that's going to make her want to sleep with you faster to lock you down. So we want to put out those qualities, those traits of a bonder, the qualities that you need to express. So let's dig down into each of these. The idea here, number one, is abundance. And this is a really, really powerful mindset that will change your life. The second most abundant resource on earth after water is women. Half of all people are women. There are tons of women out there, and this course is really going to take care of this over time when you realize how effective these techniques are and the fact that you can get 10, 50, or even 100 phone numbers this month. Suddenly, getting numbers doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? Imagine you're a regular guy, and maybe this is where you're at right now, and you meet 1 to 2 new women a year. And this is how I used to be before I learned all of my techniques. You meet a girl at a party at a friend's house, and it's the first new girl that you're semi-attracted to you've met in 6 months. Immediately, you're all in. Because if you don't get this girl, you have to wait another 6 months or a year for your next chance. So all of your behaviors will kind of demonstrate that. And that's kind of a giveaway. But if you act like, hey, I know I'll meet another girl tomorrow and I met a girl yesterday, I always have beautiful women around me. If you have that mindset, suddenly you'll become way more attractive. Women are attracted to guys that already have other women in their lives. Why do you think women love married guys or loved guys that already have a girlfriend? As soon as I have a girlfriend, I become more attractive to other women. There's something about the fact that like your neediness disappears, and that all comes from this mindset. And it might take you a while to develop this. If you can fake it at first and think, hey, what would I do if I was dating 4 other women right now? How would I act? Because that's really what separates. Texting too much, calling too much, that all comes from a space of lack of abundance. If you treat women like they're a finite resource or a limited resource, there's not enough to go around, they're going to treat you lower. But if you act like a guy who has access to tons of beautiful women, just like this girl right here, well then of course they're going to give you the respect and love you deserve. The second thing we want to talk about is confidence. And you don't have to do a massive life-changing confidence change, but the more confidence you become, the easier and easier the system is going to be. Now, what's great about what I'm teaching you is that you're just going to automatically become more confident because you're just going to be comfortable around beautiful women. The first time you go on a date with a really beautiful woman, you might totally fuck it up. And the second time and the third time. But by the 10th or the 20th, or even if it takes you 100 dates, who cares? So you go on a date, every 3 days, it takes you 3 months, and then you're an expert. So that's really still quick to become an expert, right? And the confidence just comes from being comfortable. And that's what it's more about. Rather than being like superstar, rock star confident, you don't need that. You don't need to really change who you are. You just don't want to show a lack of confidence. You don't want to say things like, why does a girl like you want to go out with a guy like me? That's the type of language that's unnecessary. You don't have to show off your confidence, just don't show off your lack either, and you'll be fine. The next quality of a bonder is kindness. These girls are looking for a hero. They're looking for a man. They already see you as higher than them. Any girl who is emailing you, calling you, or meets you, she sees you as a high-value male. She feels like she is looking up the hill and has to convince you to like her. That's the mindset she's in. And so you need to be extra sweet. Like if you're used to, and this is an experience I really went through, so this is important. When you're skills with women, your confidence, your abundance mentality, and your competence, which we'll talk about next, as those go up, your personality needs to change. When I was the lowest value guy in the room, when I was the nerd in high school, I could tell jokes from that position that when I became really popular, when I became comfortable with women, started to hurt people's feelings. The jokes didn't change, but who I was. It's like a joke that a janitor could tell you, the president can't, because it will hurt your feelings. If you feel like someone's above you and they're telling a joke to you, instead of it being funny, it hurts your feelings. So if you're like me, you may have to change that. And that is really comes to being, you have to be super, super kind, because suddenly you're not just the guy you used to be. These girls, any girl you meet off these sites will see you as a high value, and they'll see you probably as higher than you see yourself right now, because suddenly you're a guy with access to all these women. So just try to be overly kind, and it might take you a while to find the balance. You might be too kind or too sweet at first, and that's okay. What better way to work on improving your personality and having a blast than with models and beautiful women? There's the journey's at least amazing. So what? You get to learn, and you kind of got to find the balance, but lean towards being kind. This isn't about being a pushover. This is about being sweet and being kind to her and gentle to her, because she sees you as a leader. And the next quality of a bonder, the trait, is competence. And this is, what you're doing. You have life experience and act like it. And in the more areas you develop competence, the better. We're going to talk in one of our advanced modules, we talk about the 3 peaks technique, the technique to be amazing in bed. That competence in the bedroom, she is gonna really respect that, and they expect that. A woman, if you kind of have this abundance mentality and you're someone who slept with a lot of women, she expects you to be super comfortable in the bedroom. When I was 18, 21, I was so uncomfortable being naked around women. I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I would ask a lot of questions. It was very awkward. Now, because I've slept with so many women, because I've slept with each woman so many times, and I've been with really, really beautiful women, I'm just comfortable. It's the same thing. Imagine, everyone pretty much knows how to drive a car, right? You're a regular guy, you drive a Honda Accords your whole life, and then you meet a guy who's like, hey, why don't you drive my Ferrari for the day? You're going to be so nervous, right? Because it's so outside your comfort zone. But you want to be someone who acts like you drive Ferraris every day, and that's what these girls are. These girls are tier 1. They're amazing. So do things that demonstrate competence. And we're going to talk about this in some of the cool as a cucumber lessons, some of those other lessons. But these are the basic ideas. Abundance, don't demonstrate lack of confidence, be kind, and be competent. And that really can be showing her things that you're good at. Keep her in areas where you're comfortable. If you've seen the amazing movie The Tao of Steve, he says it in the best way possible. Be excellent in her presence. If you're a doctor, what's better than saving someone's life in front of her? If you're a pilot, same thing, do an emergency landing. All of these, whatever you can do to demonstrate your excellence in her presence, kind of think about that. That's a way of showing you're competent. So let's talk about instant confidence. This is something that I've developed. It just takes 15 minutes. It's something really simple, and it's going to help you feel like a bonder if you're not a naturally confident person. Now, I am not naturally confident, so I developed this technique for myself. This is not me, a guy who was born being a superhero, who suddenly said, hey, let me teach other guys confidence. This is something I developed. I was like, I need to be more confident. I need to change. I used to be very socially awkward, have massive social anxiety, be very uncomfortable in crowds. I was very unpopular in high school. I really struggled. I didn't really have any friends my whole life till I was 17. I don't want to dig into that story, but I'm just saying that I want you to know that just like you, I learned this stuff. So here's the mindset, okay? When you're going on a date, you don't really have to demonstrate any confidence until you meet in person, right? And if you do one little tiny change mentally, you'll become super confident. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, you don't have to think about it anymore because it just works. That's why I love this. This really helps me, and I've taught this to thousands of guys. The first thing is the idea that you're the selector. When you go on a date, when you meet a woman, just have this mindset. I am deciding if this is a woman I want to spend time with. That should be your mindset. Most people have the mindset, I need to make this woman attracted to me. Put that shit away. She's already attracted to you. That's why she's on the date. So your job is to decide, hey, is this someone that is, I don't want to say good enough for you, but is a good fit for you, someone that you want to date with. And the more, If your confidence is really naturally low, then yeah, you can say this is someone who is applying to be my girlfriend or applying to spend time with me. It's her job to convince you that she's worthy of your time, attention, and mentorship. Now, you may overdo it when you're learning this kind of skill. You may be, because she sees you, she might be low confidence, attractive woman. She sees you as super confident. She doesn't realize that you're kind of developing this new skill set. You're kind of coming out of your shell. You're becoming the butterfly we talked about in the other lessons. So you might be acting like, I need to be more and more confident, and she'll be overwhelmed. And so this is one of those things that it just takes experience, and that just means going on 5 or 10 dates with beautiful women, and then you'll kind of get it. It's not really hard. It's just the fact that you're kind of discovering this new situation where girls who are beautiful look up to you and see you as a respectable, awesome, like, dude that they want to be more like. So your mindset can be somewhere on the spectrum of she's applying, or she's trying to convince you that she's worthy, or your mindset can be, if you're a little more comfortable with yourself, hey, we're two people seeing if we're a good fit, and it's her job to convince me we're a good fit. And after 5 or 10 minutes, you can let this go away. This one little thought will remove all the stress of dating, because now you're not trying to impress her, right? You don't have to do anything. You're just there to see if she's good enough for you, to see if she's a good fit for you, to see if you guys belong together. And doing this little technique will really change your mind, because this is the only thing you're thinking about. It's just like when you're learning a new skill. So I mentioned wakeboarding in some of the videos. I've just started wakeboarding about 5 or 6 weeks ago regularly. I go every Tuesday at this wakeboarding park near my house, and it's really cool because it's you just can learn really quickly. Instead of learning behind a boat where no one can tell you what's going on, it's like a cable. It's kind of like those things like a ski lift. Imagine a ski lift that's pulling you like a rope behind a boat, and you go around a giant pool that's like half the size of a lake, and you can kind of get instructions, and it's really easy because you're always near the shore, the edge of the pool, and you get to go over and over and over again. And while I'm learning this skill, okay, I was super unconfident the first time I went. I was so unconfident. But what happens is you learn each step. So one of the big step that totally changed my life is if you just focus on keeping your toes up the entire time you're standing on the board, everything else becomes super easy. And I was teaching my buddy, he came for the first time yesterday, and I was like, dude, don't worry about trying to have perfect posture, all these 10 other steps the instructor told you. Just think about toes up. And he thought only about toes up, and you know what? His brain didn't have time to think about the other stuff, and he crushed it. My friend's already better than me. In one day, he got better than me. I've been 5 or 6 times. He's been once, okay? Obviously, I guess I'm a better teacher than I am a doer, and that's great for you with this course, right? I'm better at teaching. It's the same thing. He's just thinking about the one thing. If you're thinking about, hey, she's applying, she needs to convince me, let this girl show me that she's great. If you just have that in your mind for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, the kind of awkward nervousness, your brain doesn't have time to think about that because you're focused on one thing. You can only focus on one thing at a time. And this is really the instant, simple confidence thing. You don't have to do massive confidence changes. You don't have to do all these kind of things. This is just to get you through the first, few minutes where you're kind of awkward at the beginning of a date, especially if this is the first time you've gone out with someone this attractive. It just helps you get kind of loose. And with that in your mind, with those 4 key principles and with my 15-minute trick, that's all you need to avoid rejection. With those 2 simple techniques, remembering to be kind, focusing on competence and abundance, and just a little bit of confidence, just my 15-minute confidence trick, you're golden and you'll be rejection proof. You're going to be the selector and you'll never be rejected by a woman again.